Level 1. The idea. In 12 years, this idea will make you richer than every writer in history. You are on a delayed train. You have no pen. And the most important idea of your life is arriving. The train has stopped. Outside, nothing. Gray sky, silence, and then, without warning, without asking your permission, a story walks into your mind. Not a fragment, not a feeling. A whole world, characters, places, rules, a beginning and an end. You sit completely still. You are terrified that if you move, it will dissolve. You burn every detail into your memory and you make a decision sitting there on a stopped train with no pen and nowhere to be. You are going to write this down. You are not a published writer. You have never been paid to write anything. You work a job that has nothing to do with stories. You earn just enough to cover rent and food and the bus, sometimes just 2 of those 3. Your life, measured by any external standard, does not look like the life of someone who is about to create something that will be read by 500 million people. But the idea doesn't care about your external standard. It arrived anyway, and now you have to decide what to do with it. Level 2. The invisible years. Nobody sees this part. This is the part that happens before anyone is watching. Before the interviews, before the awards, before the number that will eventually appear in your bank account and refuse to fit inside your previous understanding of money. You write in the early morning before work. 40 minutes, sometimes 30. You write at night under a cheap yellow lamp while the radiator clicks weakly in the corner and the coffee beside you has already gone cold. The flat is quiet. Everyone else has stopped. You carry a notebook everywhere because the story doesn't wait for convenient moments. It arrives on buses, in queues, during meetings you are supposed to be paying attention to. You write on napkins, you write on the backs of receipts. You write because not writing feels like holding your breath. There is a period, months, maybe longer, when the money runs very low. You budget in a way that makes every purchase a small negotiation. The heating, the food. You write through this too. Not because it's romantic, because the alternative is to stop, and stopping feels like a worse kind of poverty than the financial one. You finish the first manuscript, not because conditions were right, not because you felt ready, because you decided to finish it on one of the difficult days, and that decision is the most important thing you do in this entire story. If this is the kind of story you want to know, subscribe. More is coming. Level 3. The rejections. You send the manuscript out. You have researched the process carefully because the publishing industry has a specific door and you have to knock on it the right way or it doesn't open at all. You write the query letter, a single page that is supposed to represent years of work, that is supposed to make a stranger care about your story and the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. The first rejection comes back fast. No note. Just the pages, folded badly inside a thin envelope as if the story had passed through someone's hands without leaving a mark. The second. The third. No explanation. No feedback. Just the quiet, efficient signal that what you made is not what they are looking for, which tells you nothing useful except that you should keep going. You stand in a supermarket holding 2 different packs of pasta, calculating which one gives you enough money left over for bus fare. That night, you go home and write another chapter anyway. You keep going. The 4th rejection, the 5th, the 6th. You keep going because the alternative is to let the idea that arrived on the stopped train become a story you tell yourself you once had, and you have come too far from the difficult years, from the early mornings, from the decisions made on the hard days, to let it become that. I think this could be something, the agent says over the phone. You sit completely still. 1 yes. Out of everyone you asked, 1 yes. That is all it takes. Then a publisher, a small advance, an amount of money that, if you calculate it against the hours you spent, pays you less than minimum wage. Your editor tells you honestly, don't expect to live on this. Most writers don't. The market is difficult. The odds are real. You nod. You accept the advance. You understand, without bitterness, that the world has assigned your years of work a number, and the number is small and you are going to keep writing anyway. Because the number was never the point. The story was the point. Level 4. The moment nobody predicts. The book comes out. The first print run is modest. A few hundred copies, maybe 1,000. The publisher is cautious. They have seen this before. A promising debut, some good reviews, a quiet life on the mid-list, respectable sales, a second book contracted, the slow building of a career. They are prepared for that version of events. What happens instead is something else. The book finds its readers not through advertising or reviews or carefully managed publicity, but through people handing it to other people and saying, "Read this." A teacher gives it to a student. The student gives it to a friend. The friend gives it to 3 more people. Booksellers start reordering, then reordering again. Foreign publishers begin making inquiries. An offer comes in from another country, then another. The numbers start moving in a direction that publishing numbers rarely move, and everyone who works in the industry is watching, because something is happening that they recognize but cannot fully explain. You are sitting in the same flat, or one slightly warmer now, slightly better, when your agent calls with a number, an international number, an American number. You sit down on the floor, not from fainting, from the specific physical shock of realizing that the story you wrote on napkins and receipts and early mornings when everyone else was asleep is now worth, to one company in one country, more money than you have earned in all the previous years of your life combined. Level 5. The machine. The second book. The third. A film deal. Merchandise, an industry growing around what you wrote, an industry employing designers and manufacturers and publicists and lawyers and accountants and hundreds of people whose livelihoods are now connected to the world that arrived in your mind on a stopped train. You rewrite entire sections of the later books when you find structural problems. Months of work discarded because the story requires it. Your editor says, "Do what you need to do." You do. The books get longer and darker, as if they are aging alongside the readers who grew up with them, asking harder questions as the audience grows old enough to bear harder answers. The 4th book outsells anything that has come before it. The numbers are large enough that they stop feeling like numbers and start feeling like abstractions. Quantities so far outside the range of ordinary experience that your brain can't quite hold them. 1 million copies, 5 million, 50 million. You are eventually a billionaire, the first person in history to reach that number by writing books. You grew up in a house where the heating was sometimes a decision. You sat in a cold flat and wrote on a second-hand machine and sent pages to strangers who sent them back without comment. That person still exists inside you, watching all of this, not entirely convinced it is real. Level 6. The last page. You know the ending before you write the beginning. You have carried it for years. The last line, the last image, the thing the whole series has been building toward since the idea arrived. You write the final sentence and you cry. Not for the characters, you know them too well by now for sentiment. You cry for the years, for the stopped train and the missing pen, for the grief that went into the pages, for the cold flat, for every rejection that came back without a note, for the decision you made on one of the hard days that, if you had made it differently, none of this would exist. The last book sells faster than any book in the history of publishing up to that point. A generation of readers who grew up alongside the series stay awake through the night to finish it, not because they have to, but because they cannot stop. You have made something that will outlast you. You know that. Would you have kept writing through all of it? Tell me in the comments. Level 7. Writing without the name. The series is finished. You are the most recognizable writer alive, and you want to know something that fame has made it impossible to know. Whether you can write something that people will read because of the words and not because of who wrote them. You publish under a different name, a name no one knows. The book goes out into the world as if it belongs to a stranger, which, in a way, it does. It sells modestly. Some critics notice it, some don't. Then someone who knew the secret tells someone who shouldn't have been told, and the secret becomes public. And within 24 hours, the same book, same words, same story, same sentences, goes from obscurity to the top of every bestseller list. You note this carefully. The book did not change. The words did not improve. The story did not become better. Only the name on the cover changed. And that, you now understand with a clarity that has no comfortable interpretation, is what the market was responding to all along. Not what you made, but who it came from. You file this information away. You keep writing. Level 8. The price of being heard. At this level of fame, Everything you say is heard by everyone at once and interpreted by everyone differently, and the interpretations travel faster than the original words ever could. You enter a public debate on a question you believe matters, that you have thought about carefully, that you feel you cannot stay silent on. You state your position clearly, you explain your reasoning. You are confident that what you have said is what you meant to say. The response is the largest controversy of your public life. People who built careers inside your work distance themselves from you. Readers say they are done. Your address appears publicly. Threats come. Security becomes a daily calculation you did not sign up for when you sat down to write a story on a cold morning years ago. You are the most successful writer in history. You are also more alone than you have been since the cold flat. Those two things exist simultaneously. Neither cancels the other out. Level 9, the account. You give away more than 100 million. You build organizations that do work you believe in. Work for children, work for the sick, work that has nothing to do with books and everything to do with why you wrote them. The books have been translated into dozens of languages, sold in numbers that stopped making sense long ago, read in places you will never visit by people who have never heard your name in any context other than the name on the cover, children who had no other books, prisoners, people in hospitals, people who forgot or never knew that reading could do this, could take you somewhere completely, could make you feel less alone in the specific way that only a story can. The next video drops soon. Subscribe so you don't miss it.